everyone. Welcome to the Missouri Instructional Leaders Network, where we bring together Missouri instructional leaders to share their experiences, grow professional relationships, and build curriculum and instruction skills. My name is Valerie Montgomery, and I'm here with my co-host, Shauna Stefanchik. We are your hosts this morning, and we're chatting with the award-winning superintendent of University City Schools, Dr. Sharonica Hardin-Bartley. Good morning, doctor. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing great, and Sharonica is just fine.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. For our members who may not know that much about you, could you share a little bit about your background in education and the passionate things that you would like to talk about today?
Sure. So I am a lifelong resident of St. Louis. I attended Lafayette High School, go Lancers. And I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher at heart. I'm in my 28th year of education. I've served as a teacher formally, a building leader, principal at the elementary level, human resources, so chief HR officer for St. Louis Public Schools, and the assistant superintendent for HR and leadership development for Ridner. And I've been in University City, finishing my 7th year as superintendent. I'm very proud to live in the district that I serve. I think that community context really is important to my leadership and really how I show up as a leader. I've been involved in a lot of equity-related work, having co-authored the Child Wellbeing and Education Equity recommendations from the Ferguson Commission report. I serve on several boards. I'm board chair of Alive and Well Communities that's now partnering with the Regional Health Commission. I am board chair for Big Brothers Big Sisters. I am vice chair for University City Children's Center. I serve on boards for United Way, the Magic House, and the schools of education for many of our educational institutions here in St. Louis. So community and is at the heart of my leadership, and I am unapologetically committed to advancing issues related to equity so that we can truly ensure that all of our children are well throughout Missouri. Oh, and I'm a mama. I have 2 children. I have a grown son and I have a daughter who's 11, and I am wife to James.
That is an impressive amount of things that you're doing for your community. So I'm really curious how your participation on those community boards inform your role as a superintendent and how that relates to working with your own school board.
It's everything. And so if I may, I don't know if we're still doing questions in A, but I do have a deck that I put together.
Yes.
Is it appropriate to share that now?
Yes, please.
Okay. So you should see my screen. Okay. So I take my children everywhere with me. So these are my children. Your city, whoop. So I probably should go to the front of the screen and I show you the last slide. So give me 1 second.
That was some great face painting though.
You'll see them at the end. There we go. And let me go to share. And then okay. So I call it a head and heart business because that is what education is to me. And I think that everything that I shared about my community work and my work as a leader is really centering the head and heart. And I think that piece is critically important for effective board relations. So when we think about, just our time in general as a superintendent and working with the board, be present, that's kind of a message that I carry with me, no matter what setting that I'm in. Even if I'm running and I have a lot of things on my plate, and there are a lot of competing priorities, that small second that I might have with a board member in passing or in the formal sentence context of a board meeting or a board retreat, I need to maximize that. So I love this quote: when we get too caught up in the busyness of the world, we lose connection with one another and ourselves. So always use those opportunities to be present and to build connections. U City, I think our context is important. We have a very neat community. We are considered a community that is, somewhat divided, not in the sense of family, because we are family, but we have 2 schools that are north of Olive, 2 schools that are south of Olive. Olive is a major street in our community, and there are different needs and different resources on either side. And so we just center equity in everything that we do. And this is a conversation that I in tandem and in collaboration with our board. Everything that we do in UCity, from the board level to my level, is centered on our strategic priorities, and they are rooted in our instructional vision, which is Learning Reimagined. And Learning Reimagined is a instructional vision that we collaboratively created with our board, with our community, with families, students, business leaders, and it is really grounded in research and really exemplifies what we believe is our definition of a modern learning experience. So rigorous, relevant, modern learning experiences, well-being and joy. That is a common theme. We like to have fun. We're serious about the work, but we believe that joy is an essential component of the human experience, and school should be joyful. Board interactions with superintendents should be joyful. Sometimes they're not, but we want there to be joy, and we want to center what's well and what's best for people. We can't do the work without amazing people, so excellent staff. All hands is our partnership piece, and then making sure that as a board and superintendent, we are resourcing appropriately to lift this vision. And so there are 3 pillars that really serve as the foundation for Learning Reimagined, and that's our humanized pillar, our personalized pillar, and our problematized pillar. And my hope is that you will see themes of that as I talk today. So human systems grow toward what they persistently ask questions about, period. That's when you think about a system, what the conversations entail, what they focus on, that's what the system grows towards. And so we are very intentional about talking about our strategic priorities, and you'll see a little bit of that as I go throughout. So this is my board. Relationships are everything. This was at our recent induction. We have 2 new board members that were brought onto the board, elected in April. We lost 2. Those 2 that we lost had been on the board for 9 years, and they were actually on the board that hired me. So bittersweet, but we had 2 great new members that are coming on board, and I firmly believe that relationships are everything. So just another visual about education, the space that we're in. Education is understanding relationships. And so to not think that relationships are a part of the board superintendent dynamic, I think is a miss. So the superintendent and the board, we anchor and set the tone for the system. We really do. In UCity, we talk a lot about the heart of a lion. And we really try to live that in everything that we do, hence our strategic priority of well-being. And it is not an accident. It's not warm and fuzzy. It's not superficial. It is the work. So an equity lens is also something that we anchor as a board and superintendent. And your context may be different. In our context, I showed you a slide that had what's called the olive divide. And that black line that was on that map represents students who have what they need and students who don't. So in a system that services 2,600 students, and I would say 67% of my students qualify for free and or reduced lunch, that context matters. So in order to really address equity, I love Frey's work, and he has a great book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and it really talks about understanding that we have to really make sure that we center the lives and the lived experiences of the people that we're serving. If you're in rural Missouri, that context matters. If you're in suburban Missouri, that context matters. If you're in an affluent district, that context matters. If you're in a district like mine, where I have children who have everything that they need in abundance and children who don't, that context matters. So whatever your context is, if it's students who are ELs, students who have an identified special education need, students who identify differently, students who are excelling and off the charts academically, I would argue that the social and emotional needs of all students is a crisis for us in our country, and certainly in Missouri. So equity means something different, but equity is just basically giving children what they need where they are. And it's not always a Black or white issue. There are many other factors that come into play when we talk about equity. And it's not just an urban issue. I want to name that for Missouri, because Missouri sometimes confuses equity, and it is synonymous with Black and poor and urban. And that is far from what equity truly, truly means. So the work, we are very fortunate with our school board that we have a student representative that serves on our board. This is Tori. We're so proud of her. She's a rising senior. And so she is excited to start her. She was installed on April as well. But this is really our focus on social justice and centering student voice. So that's Miss Tori with her beautiful face, and she's smart too. Our board has allowed us to really ensure student voice. So you'll see our students here with really understanding how social justice, again, impacts all of us and not being in a vacuum. Geronimo here was a second grader at the time, and this is when Flint, Michigan was in the news about the water crisis. And so our students researched what was happening there. They watched some news clips and they wanted to help. So they decided to have a water walk where they simulated not just the water issue in Flint, Michigan, but what happens in third world countries when families and communities don't have access to clean, fresh water. So they simulated the distance that mothers mostly have to walk with weights of water in buckets to get water to their families. And so they carried these jugs on their heads or on their shoulders to a local park to simulate the importance of families and children having access to clean water. And for every jug that they carried, they requested donations. And with that money, they raised over $600 to donate to Flint, Michigan. So when children have voice and agency and understand social justice issues, even if it doesn't, they have clean water, but it wasn't enough for them to say, I can go to the faucet or I can go to the fridge and get clean water. They understood that there were children in other places who do not have that privilege. Our board and our relationship with our board allows us to be able to do this type of work. Restorative practices is a key component of our work as well. Social emotional needs are real. They are so real right now. And if you don't, just turn on the television any day. And any community, no community is exempt. And so our board in 2019 approved a social, emotional, and restorative practices resolution. We were the first, honestly, I think we might be the only in Missouri to have a board resolution that really calls out what it means to address well-being, equity, and ways to end the school to prison pipeline and to really center the voices of students. So this is board work, and it is equity. We use something called Ubuntu here. It is an African proverb that means I am because we are. And so you'll see community. You see us building community. Our board members are a part of that community. They frequently engage in this way. So it is about inclusion and not finding ways to separate, isolate, and make people be othered. It's embracing everybody that is a part of our community. And that is board work. Boards serve a collective community. And there are always interests in the community, always, always. There's always interests that are always louder than others. And as a superintendent and as a board, it is important to listen to all of that, but centering the voices of all, particularly those who aren't loud, because often that group is the group that's most marginalized. So this is really the board work in tandem with the superintendent. We also have an equity policy. In 2021, our board adopted a policy ACIB on educational equity. And it really emphasized that we are committed to the success of every student. And we believe that educational equity is achieved when education policies, practices, interactions, and resources are representative of, constructed by, and responsive to all people, such that each individual has access to and can participate in making progress and high quality learning experiences. So this is, again, board work, and our board, in tandem with me and other stakeholders, understands that Equity is not, again, just social and economic status or race, but it's also disability, sexual orientation, gender. It's everything that embraces equity. What equity does at the board level and superintendent level is it gives students access. Social networks in the professional world. These are some of our former NAV scholars who were actually working at Fortune and major companies throughout the area, MasterCard Worldwide, KPMG, and Worldwide Technology, doing internships that were paid. So equity gives students access and exposure to things that they may not have without a focus on equity. Another example is our early college program. Many districts across Missouri have an early college program. If you do, yay for you. It is a great way to really address poverty and give students a jump start into that post-secondary experience. So our early college program is in collaboration with St. Louis Community College, and our board puts resources to ensure that every child can access this academic support at no cost. They pay no cost for any of the coursework or transportation, and once the students successfully complete the early college program, they graduate with their high school diploma and a dual degree and an associate's degree, which is a game changer. So I have students who start their freshman year as second semester sophomores. So you can do the math. That is significant when you're aiming to address poverty. Nothing about us without us. This is our portrait of a graduate that was created in collaboration with students, with parents, with business leaders, and our board has embraced this portrait of a graduate, and it really amplifies kind of our vision of the U City graduate. Many districts are engaged in this portrait of a graduate work. Some call it a profile of a graduate, but this is, again, board level work. So well-being and joy, I said it's no accident. We believe that when our students feel respected, loved, safe, challenged, healthy, cared for, and empowered and heard, that they have well-being and joy. And that is a vision that we have. So how do you do this? How do you make this happen at the board superintendent level? Communicate, 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 and then communicate again. Communication is so important. There should be no surprises. I am a fan of Brene Brown. She talks about clear being kind. You should be clear with your vision, with your goals, and always asking those questions. We ask the question all the time, and how are the children? If our work and our actions, our decision-making is not helping our children be better, why are we doing it? It's just that simple for me. And as a superintendent and board, it is important to keep that conversation at the forefront. Also in practice, I have a Friday note that I send out every Friday or sometimes on Sunday, depending on what's happening that weekend. But here's an example of one page of it. So our tennis team won district championships last week. So the Friday note from May 12th highlights them. And so our board gets pictures and photos from the week. If there's anything that they need from DESE, I put that in there. Any updates about finances, like the monthly financial report goes in there. You'll see off to the side, it says goals. Those are my superintendent goals. So I have 3 goals that I'm held accountable to, that I work in collaboration with the board towards. And so everything that I do is aligned to my goals. And guess what? My goals are aligned to our vision of Learning Reimagined. We also have board retreats. We try to have 2 a year where we engage in meaningful dialogue about board superintendent relationships. They don't happen by accident. If any of you are in a marriage or any type of meaningful relationship and it doesn't take work, maybe I'm doing it wrong, because my marriage is wonderful, but it takes work. It's probably one of the most meaningful relationships I have, but I have to work at it. So our board retreats allow us to practice and work on being a collective team. We call ourselves an effective team of 8 because that's really what a board is. We also have book studies, and I'll share some resources that we use. And then, did I mention communication? I can't emphasize that enough. And you also have to differentiate and know how your board wants to communicate. I have 7 members that are on the board. None of them can make a decision in isolation. However, collectively, they can move the district forward. And I have to know how they all, what works best for them. Some want a text if something urgent happens. Some are like, just send me the email. Some are like, pick up the phone and call me. So you have to know that. So as a superintendent, it's important to know holistically how the board wants to communicate, and then how do you need to differentiate from there. So these are two resources that I love. The 4 Agreements is one that I've used for many, many years. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Always do your best and don't make assumptions. Those are the 4 Agreements. Basic. So many people miss it, including me. So the 4 Agreements is a book that I give to every new leader that starts in our system. Our board has received the 4 Agreements. There's a text that Michael Fullen has written a few years ago called The Governance Core. I love The Governance Core. It is a great resource for school board superintendent dynamics, and really, in my opinion, does a great job of framing what is the board's responsibility, what is the superintendent's responsibility, and how do you merge those two responsibilities so that there's a common vision and approach to doing the work. He calls it a moral imperative that really is about centering what's best for students and the system. So we are U-City. We believe in this work. This is just a graphic that highlights our restorative work. We partnered with St. Louis County for a Project Restore partnership that has been very powerful. And again, our board allows us to be able to do this work. So that is all that I have to share. And I don't know what's next, but I'm going to stop sharing.
Well, thank you so much. That was really, there were multiple times in your slideshow that I had goosebumps. Most of my time as an educator was spent in Kansas City. And, you know, there's several similarities between Kansas City and St. Louis, especially when we get into the topic of equity.
Yes.
So, yes, so much of that resonated with me. And I love how you said, power the children, because that is what we're all here to do. But if we aren't intentional about centering it back to them, we can really get lost in the adult decisions. I wonder, how do you know when a school board and school leadership are really working together in unison? Like, what would you say would be an indicator that like this is working well?
I think that action. So I try to live, like, we have policies that we've co-created. We have resolutions that we've co-created. And so that's an artifact, right? I also think that board meetings are a good way to tell. They are. I mean, and what happens in the board meeting? Is it focused on the work? Is it personal? Is there professional decorum? How we show up in public is really indicative of whether or not things are going well. You can hash it out behind closed doors, but when you show up in public, there should be a certain level of professional decorum, even with disagreement. Our board, we're not always in 100% agreement, but even when we disagree, there is a level of professionalism and respect that we display. I also think that what is communicated about the district and what families say. Families have a pulse, and we ask our families and our caregivers about the district and how they feel they are experiencing our system. And I will also say public comments during board meetings is a factor. Sometimes there are external factors, but how the board responds to those public comments. And then I would say the length of a board meeting. And I know that my board might disagree with me because they love when a lot of people come. We don't have a lot of people that attend our board meetings. I think that it is because they have confidence in what we're doing. They are live streamed, but I don't have a line of people waiting outside the door to come in and give complaints. Because honestly, that is one vehicle to share and engage, but you should have multiple points for parents to express their thoughts, their aspirations, and their concerns about the system. And it should not be solely the board meeting. And so those are just a few ways that I feel. And then I will say, I think tenure of a superintendent, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but I've worked in systems where I had 7 superintendents in 4 years. And so I think that when you have longevity with the superintendent, I would hope that is a positive because there's some alignment between the vision of the district and that superintendent's ability to execute that vision that is aligned to the board's expectations and the community's expectations.
Thank you.
Sharonica, I have a question for you. First of all, so many great things. And I really appreciated when our company is dedicated to educational equity, right? Making sure that everyone has high quality. And I love how you gave this definition of, we always look at equity as and so that's just part of our thing too. We're branching out. No, equity is meeting people where they are and making sure that we're evening the playing field. So thank you for that. And I love how you said agreeing policy. We've got lots of book names that I need to look up that you were mentioning as well. You're so well versed in, with the communication. One of my questions is, did you have a mentor, or like, how did you get to where you are? Right. Because one of the things our company is passionate about is trying to make more leaders like you, right? That have the longevity, who have this, but I think I can only speak for myself as this, I was an instructional leader, got thrown in halfway through the year because a principal left in a high needs building, no mentorship, and I'm working it the best I can. But I feel like so many times leaders work in isolation. So I'm curious to know, did you have good mentorship, or what were things that you kind of leaned on to get to where you are today?
So I still have mentors. I still have folks that I reach out to, kind of a personal cabinet that I seek feedback and input around the work that I do. So it is a constant work in progress. I have not arrived. And I think when leaders stop having mentors, that's a problem. I also have a lot of mentees. So I'm in a position now that I can share my lessons learned, but I still have work to do with myself and my leadership. So definitely seasoned superintendents who have done the work. I have sought them out. Honestly sought one particular person out before I even applied for the superintendency to kind of do a pre-interview so I can get her opinion on whether or not she felt I had the skills and competencies that were necessary to even apply for the position. I maintain contact with that individual. I have mentors from various sectors, from the business sector, because as a superintendent, you are running a business. And so I leverage individuals who have been successful with owning their own businesses or creating their own brand, because your superintendency in your district, it is a brand, and you are the living brand. You walk that brand. I also work with our local organization, Education Plus. We have a group of St. Louis area superintendents. We engage in meetings. I'm a part of MASA. I attend those meetings to learn from colleagues across the state, but I'm also involved on the national scene with AASA. And I was a part of the AASA National Superintendent Certification Program. So I was able to meet and work with superintendents from across the country. And most recently, I am a part of a very prestigious leadership program with the Annie E. Casey Foundation, where I am an Annie Casey Fellow. And it's a 22-month-long fellowship where I work with 14 other nonprofit leaders from various sectors, and not just the educational sector, because education is the largest social services entity, but we work with child welfare, we work with the criminal justice system, we work with mental health. And so that fellowship has really been impactful to my leadership.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Anything our company can do too, I know we have things like MASA and groups, but I just think that's so pivotal. So it's great to hear that that's part of your story as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. This was a very rich conversation, and I'm excited to share this for others on the network. So, Shauna, did you have any other questions?
No, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.